Your morning coffee may be the single best brain health decision you make every day. The research on coffee and cognitive aging is, by the standards of nutritional epidemiology, extraordinarily consistent. Multiple large prospective studies have found that regular coffee consumption is associated with significantly reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and all-cause dementia. A comprehensive meta-analysis found that the highest coffee consumers showed approximately 27% lower risk of Alzheimer's disease compared to non-coffee drinkers. The mechanisms include caffeine's adenosine receptor blockade, which reduces neuroinflammation through adenosine A2A receptor effects on microglia. Polyphenol compounds in coffee, including chlorogenic acids, directly activate antioxidant pathways, and caffeine produces direct BDNF elevation similar to exercise. Your morning coffee with lion's mane, turmeric, and black pepper is doing more for your brain than almost any other single intervention. But, after 50, the caffeine in your coffee is also doing something that its brain health benefits are working against. It is changing your hydration status in a specific way that, if not managed, partially undermines the cognitive function it is simultaneously supporting. And caffeine creates an adenosine rebound pattern that sets up an afternoon cognitive crash that most adults over 50 have come to accept as normal. Today, we're going to fix both of these problems with a 5-minute morning protocol upgrade that amplifies everything your coffee is already doing, eliminating the dehydration and timing costs that aging makes more significant. Let's optimize your cognitive longevity. To understand why the caffeine protocol needs specific optimization after 50, we need to understand how aging changes the pharmacology of caffeine in the brain. Caffeine's primary mechanism of action is competitive inhibition of adenosine receptors, particularly the A1 and A2A receptor subtypes. Adenosine is a neuromodulatory molecule that accumulates in the brain during waking hours, progressively increasing the drive to sleep, what we call sleep pressure. By blocking adenosine receptors, caffeine temporarily prevents adenosine from binding and reduces the subjective experience of sleepiness and mental fatigue. When the caffeine is metabolized and clears the adenosine receptors, the adenosine that has accumulated during the blockade rushes to bind to its receptors all at once. This produces the caffeine crash. The afternoon energy dip that most coffee drinkers experience is this adenosine rebound, amplified by the accumulation while receptors were blocked. After 50, this dynamic changes in two important ways. First, caffeine metabolism slows with age. The cytochrome P450 enzyme primarily responsible for caffeine metabolism, CYP1A2, shows reduced activity in older adults. Caffeine that might be metabolized within 4 to 5 hours in a young adult persists for 6 to 8 hours in adults over 60. This longer half-life means that afternoon caffeine consumption remains active in the brain during the early sleep period, suppressing the adenosine-driven sleep pressure. The caffeine that you had with lunch at 1 p.m. may still be blocking 50% of your adenosine receptors at 10 p.m. This caffeine persistence into sleep time is one of the most underappreciated drivers of the slow-wave sleep deterioration that we've addressed in the sleep protocol. The caffeine from your afternoon cup persists into the evening and suppresses the deep sleep that magnesium glycinate and L-theanine are working to restore. Second, the aging brain's adenosine A2A receptors undergo upregulation, increasing in number and sensitivity, as part of the neuroinflammatory aging process. Elevated A2A receptor expression has been documented in the aging hippocampus and has been associated with accelerated memory impairment. This occurs because A2A receptor signaling suppresses hippocampal synaptic plasticity through mechanisms involving inhibition of BDNF release at synapses. This makes the aging brain more sensitive to adenosine's cognitive suppressing effects, meaning equivalent adenosine produces more cognitive impairment in older brains. And it makes the adenosine blocking effects of caffeine potentially more cognitively beneficial, because the A2A receptors being blocked are more dysfunctionally overactive. This is one mechanism through which coffee's neuroprotective effects may be partially stronger in adults over 60 than in younger adults. Now let's address the dehydration issue, because this is the most immediately correctable problem with most adults' coffee habits. Caffeine is a mild diuretic. It increases urine production by inhibiting adenosine receptors in the kidney tubules, which normally signal water reabsorption. The diuretic effect is real but often overstated. In habitual coffee drinkers, the effect is largely offset by the fluid volume of the coffee itself. Moderate consumption doesn't produce net dehydration in regular consumers. However, after age 50, two factors change this calculation significantly. First, the compromised thirst mechanism. Adults over 50 often operate with an unreliable thirst signal, meaning they may be underhydrated without feeling thirsty. Your body is already at its daily maximum dehydration after 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and your thirst mechanism won't reliably alert you. Second, morning cortisol and its interaction with caffeine. Cortisol peaks naturally in the first hour after waking, the cortisol awakening response. Caffeine during this peak doesn't add full alertness benefits, because cortisol is already producing the alertness caffeine would otherwise generate. The recommendation from sleep research is to delay caffeine until 90 to 120 minutes after waking. This allows the cortisol cycle to complete before caffeine adds adenosine receptor blockade, producing a more complete and sustained effect. Delaying coffee allows you to consume your morning electrolyte solution first, rehydrating from the overnight fluid deficit before introducing any diuretic influence. The morning electrolyte solution should always precede your morning coffee, not follow it. This simple change produces 3 benefits: better hydration, a complete cortisol cycle, and more effective caffeine blockade time to when you need it most. Beyond timing and hydration optimization, the brain health benefits of your morning coffee can be significantly amplified through the specific additions that we've built into the protocol and through a few targeted enhancements. The most neuroprotective components of coffee are not the caffeine, they are the polyphenols. Chlorogenic acids, the primary polyphenol class in coffee, are among the most potent natural NRF2 activators in the food supply. NRF2 activation drives the upregulation of cellular antioxidant and detoxification enzymes that protect neurons from oxidative damage. Caffeine, a dehydration compound found primarily in unfiltered coffee, has been shown to directly stimulate BDNF expression in hippocampal neurons. Research found that caffeine treatment produced BDNF increases comparable to antidepressant medications, suggesting direct contribution to BDNF elevation. Caffeine is removed by paper filters, which is why unfiltered preparations like French press or Turkish coffee provide greater neuroprotective benefit. The concern that caffeine raises LDL cholesterol is real, but typically modest and outweighed by neuroprotective benefits for most adults. The lion's mane and turmeric additions are working synergistically with coffee polyphenols. Lion's mane's hericenones stimulate NGF. Turmeric's curcumin activates the same NRF2 pathway as coffee polyphenols, with synergistic effects by activating different upstream sensors. The combination of coffee polyphenols, hericenones, curcumin, and piperine produces broader and more robust neuroprotective gene expression. The cinnamon addition, half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, further amplifies this polyphenol synergy. Cinnamon polyphenols activate insulin receptor signaling in neurons, complementing the NRF2 activation of the coffee and turmeric components. The morning coffee has evolved into a comprehensive neuroprotective delivery vehicle through the additions we've made across multiple videos. Let me now give you the complete optimized caffeine protocol, integrating timing, hydration, polyphenol amplification, and the afternoon cutoff that protects sleep architecture. Upon waking, immediately, morning electrolyte solution, 500 milliliters of water with salt, cream of tartar, and lemon. This rehydrates from the overnight deficit before any diuretic influence is introduced. Morning bright light exposure, 5 to 10 minutes outside. This anchors the cortisol awakening response and the circadian clock, both of which should complete their natural cycles before caffeine is introduced. Next, a 3-minute posture and breathing reset, vagal tone activation. 90 to 120 minutes after waking, First, coffee. Prepare your morning coffee with the Complete Addition protocol. Lion's Mane ½ teaspoon. Turmeric ¼ teaspoon with black pepper pinch. Ceylon cinnamon ½ teaspoon. Collagen peptides 10 grams. Inulin 5 grams. MCT oil if ApoE4 positive. If using unfiltered preparation, French press or AeroPress, this maximizes caffeine and polyphenol content. Take your supplements with your coffee and breakfast. The fat content of breakfast maximizes absorption of the fat-soluble supplements. The afternoon cutoff. This is the most important and most frequently violated element of the caffeine protocol for adults over 50. Based on the 6 to 8 hour caffeine half-life, the absolute latest that any caffeinated beverage should be consumed is 12 to 1 p.m. This allows caffeine to clear to approximately 25% by 10 p.m., the sleep onset time following our consistent sleep timing. For adults needing an afternoon boost, try a 10 to 20 minute nap before 2 p.m. to avoid interfering with nighttime sleep pressure. Or use a cold water face splash for immediate alertness. The morning electrolyte solution also works, as the energy dip is frequently dehydration. Research on dementia risk has found the strongest protective association with 3 to 5 cups per day, roughly 300 to 500 milligrams of caffeine. For adults over 50, given the slower caffeine metabolism, 2 to 3 cups in the morning window before 1 p.m. is the optimal balance. Adults who enjoy the ritual in the evening simply need to choose decaffeinated options. Decaf retains the full polyphenol and chlorogenic acid content. Evening decaf provides antioxidant support without the sleep cost. Optimize your routine to protect your brain and your rest. The optimized caffeine protocol is elegant in its simplicity because it does not add new interventions. It optimizes the timing and implementation of what is already one of the most powerful elements of the complete system we've built. The morning coffee is the delivery vehicle for lion's mane, turmeric, cinnamon, collagen, and inulin, all of which are already in the protocol. Optimizing when and how that coffee is consumed amplifies the effectiveness of all of these additions simultaneously. The 90-minute delay after waking allows the cortisol awakening response, the morning bright light circadian anchoring, and the morning rehydration to complete before caffeine is introduced. The cortisol, the light, and the hydration are not competing with the caffeine. They are preparing the biological context in which the caffeine operates most effectively. The afternoon cutoff directly protects the slow-wave sleep architecture that the magnesium glycinate, L-theanine, and apigenin are working to restore. If caffeine is suppressing adenosine-driven sleep pressure into the evening, no amount of sleep support compounds can fully compensate. Eliminating afternoon caffeine removes a direct antagonist of the most important restorative process in the entire protocol, the polyphenol amplification through unfiltered preparation, and the cinnamon addition compounds the NRF2 activation that resveratrol and quercetin are providing. Through different upstream mechanisms, the morning coffee is now activating NRF2 through coffee polyphenols, curcumin, piperine, and cinnamon polyphenols, a 4-pathway simultaneous NRF2 activation that no single supplement achieves. Here is your specific action plan for this week. Move your morning coffee to 90 minutes after waking, immediately after your electrolyte solution and morning bright light. This single timing change will produce noticeable improvements in morning cognitive clarity within days, because you are allowing the natural cortisol peak to complete before adding caffeine on top of it. Establish a firm afternoon caffeine cutoff of 1 p.m. Replace any afternoon caffeinated beverages with decaf, herbal tea, or the afternoon electrolyte water. Consider switching to French press or AeroPress without paper filter for maximum caffeine and polyphenol content in your morning cup. Next week on Neurovitality After 50, we are going into one of the most fascinating areas of current aging science: biological rhythms beyond the circadian clock, specifically the ultradian rhythms of brain activity that cycle every 90 to 120 minutes throughout the day. Understanding and aligning your work, rest, and learning activities with these 90-minute brain cycles produces dramatic improvements in cognitive performance. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications. Share this with someone whose morning coffee routine deserves an upgrade. Thank you for being here. Stay sharp, stay optimized, stay vital. I will see you next week.